Listen, if you've ever wondered why you relate and respond the way you do in relationships, or maybe you're curious as to why your partner or your spouse reacts and relates the way they do in relationship, especially when it makes no sense in your mind, is likely that the driver behind your relational behaviors are actually tied to an attachment style that you learned and developed as a child. So in this video, I want to introduce the 4 attachment styles, explain what they look like so that you can identify what attachment style maybe you have, what attachment style your partner may have, in order that you can address these behaviors and the attachment styles to figure out how to operate in a more healthy way in your relationship. That's today on Relation Shots. Hey, welcome to Relation Shots. My name is Eric Wooten. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually will work in your relationship. If you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, check the link in the description area below. If we can help you in any way in your relationship, whether you're dating, you're engaged and need some premarital counseling, or you're married and need ways to strengthen your relationship, check out the links below. We've got a marriage membership. We do premarital counseling. We've got a dating class going on right now. We have 4-day experiences on location at some great resorts that you can be a part of. Check that out in the description area below. Let's talk about attachment styles. Listen, there's nothing more frustrating than continuing to do and respond and react in certain ways that are not serving you well in a relationship and not really understanding why you do that. Or even more so, why your partner or spouse is reacting and responding the way they are when you're like, listen, I think what was done does not elicit the response that I got. This is confusing. Most of the time, what you are experiencing is somebody acting or behaving out of an attachment style that they learned and developed when they were a child in relationship. And so what happens is we bring those attachment styles with us, oftentimes that are not healthy and helpful, and then we get into romantic relationships and we can't figure out why we can't get things to work the way they're supposed to work. So I'm not going to bore you with all the history and the origins of the attachment theory that developed these attachment styles, but just know in the 1950s, psychologist John Bowlby came up with attachment theory. In the 1970s, Mary Ainsworth built on it, and they came up and identified 4 attachment styles. And those attachment styles are secure attachment, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and then disorganized attachment, which really is avoidant anxious attachment. And those are the attachment styles. And all of us have developed some kind of attachment style, and all the attachment theory speaks to is how we bond and relate to others in our relationships. And since this is a Relation Shot YouTube channel, we want to talk about our romantic relationships and how these apply. So when you think about these attachment styles, they're impacting a few different ways that we interact in the relationship. For instance, they impact how a person deals with closeness and emotional intimacy, a person's ability to communicate emotions and needs and listen to emotions and needs of their partner, how they respond to conflict and interact around conflict, and then expectations they have of their partner and the relationship. So I'll run through an overview of the 4 attachment styles and some of the characteristics of them so you can help identify maybe yours and your partner's if you're in a relationship. But I want to do it looking at 3 main dimensions of the relationship. And so the first one is just closeness or intimacy, which is, how comfortable is a person with emotional closeness and bonding and intimacy in the relationship. The next one is avoidance and dependence. So basically, is the person comfortable depending on others and having others depend on them? And the last category is anxiousness, which is just, do they have a fear of abandonment or rejection in the relationship? So as we look at these 4 attachment styles, those are going to be the 3 main areas that we're kind of addressing. So let's start with the first one, is just secure attachment. And this person is low on avoidance and low on anxiety and is comfortable with intimacy and connection. This is a healthy person. They have no problem depending on others. They have no problem having others depend on them. They're not fearful or worried about their relationship, and they're able to move into intimacy or closeness with their partner and actually enjoy that level. That's called a secure attachment. Number 2 is avoidant. So they're high on avoidance, low on anxiety, and they're not comfortable with intimacy. So this person is not necessarily worried about the relationship or fearful about the relationship. Oftentimes, they're not even that concerned about their partner's availability, so they're not going to come across as real needy. But on the avoidance side, they're not going to want to depend on people, and they're not going to want people to depend on them either. They value freedom, they value independence, they're self-sufficient, so they're probably not going to want the same level of intimacy that their partner wants in a relationship, and they tend to avoid that. So these people may feel a little more disconnected if you're in a relationship with them. That is the avoidant attachment. The third one is the anxious attachment. This person is low on avoidance, but high on anxiety, and they actually crave closeness in the relationship. But this person feels insecure most of the time in their relationship. They're fearful of being abandoned or rejected. So oftentimes this person comes across as needy or clingy. They often want more intimacy than their partner is actually able to give them. So that's why they come across real needy, can often be controlling, can often be jealous, because again, they're being driven by an anxiety that this other person will leave them. And then the fourth one is disorganized. They're high on avoidance and high on anxiety. And so they're not real comfortable with intimacy, but they're also fearful of their partner's commitment and love. So you can see how that works. They may not be comfortable being close, but they almost want that closeness because that's the only security that the other person isn't going to leave them. So sometimes this person can feel a little bit confusing because it seems like they want you close, but then when you're close, they're not real comfortable with closeness. And so this person begins to really confuse you because there's both avoidance and anxiety in the disorganized person. So what does all this mean? What this means is you need to evaluate what type of attachment style you think you have. You also need to know if you're in a relationship, married or dating, what type of attachment style that person has. That's step one. And then what do you need to do if you need to change it? And here's the reality: unless you're a secure attachment style, all the other three are unhealthy attachment styles, which means you're going to exhibit. It doesn't mean you can't be healthy at all. You're just going to exhibit unhealthy behaviors a lot of times when your fear or your issue tends to get triggered in the relationship. So we've got to recognize it and take complete ownership first. And then once we do that, what does it look like? Well, like I said, identify your attachment style. If you're in a relationship, identify your partner's attachment style. Once you know those, you can begin to evaluate and identify the triggers that kind of fight against your attachment style. For instance, if I have an anxious attachment style, right, I'm gonna be triggered when my partner does things that make me fear their commitment in a relationship. So if I have long periods of time where I don't hear from them, I can't get a hold of them, that's going to trigger my fear that they may be being unfaithful or going to abandon me. So when you identify the triggers, now you need to ask. You need to ask each other for what you desire and need in the relationship that will help you heal in your attachment area. So it may be, hey, I get fearful pretty quick if I can't get a hold of you based on my attachment style and maybe even past relationships. So if you could just communicate a little more than you do, that would be fantastic, right? Text me when you land in said city instead of 5 hours later after I think you've landed, I haven't heard from you and I don't know what you're doing. When you're out at the party, maybe when you leave or go home, text me to let me know you're having a good time or something, just so I'm not fearful. So there's things that they can do that can help you heal when your attachment style is triggered in any ways. Maybe it's the avoidant one, right? Where it's like, man, this is too much. I feel like you're expecting too much from me. And can you maybe lower some of the expectations? Or they have a hard time depending on people. So in an intimate relationship, we need that. That's called trust. That's called commitment. We rely on each other. So it might be, hey, I know it's hard for you because you have an avoidant attachment style to depend on me for anything, but I want to feel like I can add value to your life. So maybe is there an area, a small area, an area that's may not a big concern for you that you can try depending on me so I can prove myself trustworthy, because we need some level of dependence in our relationship and you can help them heal in that area. So listen, if you have good boundaries that will guard and protect the behaviors that you want to see in the relationship, what happens is we can develop a more secure attachment style as we heal from one of the unhealthy ones as we work with each other in a relationship. So the key is recognizing it, then recognizing triggers, and then asking for behaviors that will help you not to be triggered and help you to heal in the relationship so that we can begin to mold a little bit away from some of the unhealthy ones and develop secure attachments in our relationship. So those are the 4 attachment styles. If you're wondering why, or it feels like, man, my childhood is still driving my adult relationships, you probably have never recognized or dealt with your attachment style. So I'd love to hear your comments. Drop in the comment section below what you think your attachment style is. And if you've grown or some of it's healed and you've recognized this and this is not new to you, give us a little information on how you have worked on and healed that attachment style so that you can have a healthy, secure relationship as an adult. As I said before, listen, if we can help you in any area of your relationship, listen, if you're not working on your relationship, it's not staying the same. It's getting worse. Nothing stays static when it comes to relationships. We don't drift towards greatness. We drift towards unhealth. We drift towards a decay. And so if you're not working on it, it's actually getting worse. And all that means is when you decide to work on it, you have that much more work to get back to where you were. So take advantage of the resources we have. Many of them free, some of them paid, low-cost memberships, classes. Do some stuff. Do yourself a favor. Work on your relationship so you can have an amazing, awesome, thriving relationship that you actually enjoy being in. So if we can help you, check out the links below. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on Relation Shots.